Hello and welcome back to Football Daily, where we've decided to profile an XI of players who are horrifically overpriced. Let's get started. Goalkeeper, Kepa Arrizabalaga. Before you all go crazy, we aren't saying that Kepa didn't have a perfectly adequate debut season in England. Brought in just a day before the deadline, the former Athletic Bilbao shot stopper helped Chelsea go unbeaten through the first 12 league games, conceding just 8 goals in the process. And although there were some definite downs, including that incident during the Carabao Cup final, he ended the season having played all but 4 Premier League and Europa League matches, finishing as a champion of the latter. While conceding 39 goals across a league season might not sound exceptional, Chelsea still comfortably had the third best defence in the division according to expected goals in a transitional season. But the fact remains the 24-year-old cost £71.6 million, the fourth most expensive signing in British football history. For that price, Chelsea fans expect genuinely world-class performances, which they haven't seen yet. Defender, Danilo. Man City's capture of Angelino and attempts to sign Joao Cancelo suggests that Pep Guardiola has earmarked fullback depth as an area to improve his near-perfect team. But if you want to continue to hear from our near-perfect team, remember to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a video. This spells bad news for Danilo, who is supposedly catching the eye of new Nerazzurri boss Antonio Conte. If the 27-year-old Brazilian secures this move, it will continue a journey that has seen him play for the second biggest club in Portugal, the most successful team in European history, and the best side to grace the Premier League. But since a promising first season at the Bernabeu after his £28 million move from Porto, in which he contributed 7 goals in 23 league starts, his career has slowly declined. The two-time Champions League winner was sold to Man City at the end of Zidane's first full season and has struggled for regular minutes since. Even amidst Walker's drop-off in form and Mendy's injury woes, Danilo only made 11 Premier League appearances in 18-19. Having cost a combined £55 million in transfer fees to date, it's fair to say the soon-to-be 28-year-old hasn't repaid the faith shown in him yet. Defender, Hernandez. 23-year-old Hernandez has every chance of emerging as one of the best defenders in the world. The 6-foot centre-back come left-back has played under one of the best defensive coaches in the world over the last 5 years, who has developed him into a player capable of winning 64% of his aerial duels and 90% of his tackles in 18-19. But although his CV, which includes a Champions League final appearance, Europa League and World Cup, looks impressive, the Atleti Academy graduate is actually relatively inexperienced. The Marseille-born defender has only made 16 Champions League appearances and played 110 club games in total, 188 fewer than Dele Alli, who is 2 months his junior. Some of this naivety comes out when he's in possession, with the Frenchman only completing 81% of his passes in 18-19, good enough for just 13th in Los Rojiblancos squad. So for all of Hernandez's promise, there are undoubted flaws, making it impossible to argue with the fact that in paying £70 million for his services, the second biggest fee for a defender in history, Bayern have definitely overpaid. Defender, Harry Maguire. Alright, we've slightly cheated with this one because Harry Maguire hasn't technically joined Man United yet, but there seems to be a very high likelihood that the 26-year-old will for upwards of £75 million before the August the 8th deadline. Many people think the fee signifies that the game has finally gone mad, but the fact remains that with his 83% tackle success rate, higher than Laporte's, and ability on the ball, with only Toby Alderweireld and Conor Cody completing more than his 6.2 long balls a game, he is an undoubted step up on United's current crop of centre-backs. Throw in his 77% aerial duel win percentage, higher than Virgil van Dijk's, and the fact that he is a homegrown international with 20 caps, and it's clear why United want him. And with their primary defensive targets of Koulibaly and Skriniar off the table, and having missed out on the top 4 for the 4th time in 6 years, it's clear that Maguire might be the best they can bring in. But all of this doesn't hide the fact that if the Sheffield-born defender does move for £75 million, then United have overpaid massively. That would make him the most expensive English player of all time by £31 million and the 12th most in history. Come on, he's worth £50 million tops. Defender, Benjamin Mendy. When Man City signed Benjamin Mendy from Monaco for £52 million in July 2017, there was a certain risk attached to it. Yes, the left-back was coming off a commanding campaign with Les Monégasques, in which his 8 assists in 32 League and Champions League games were a crucial component of them winning their first league title since 2000 and reaching their first Champions League semi-final since 2004. But he had a pretty gruesome injury history. Just 17 months earlier, Mendy had torn his cruciate ligament whilst playing for Marseille, forcing him to miss 13 games. He recovered and showed enough promise to earn himself an £11.8 million move to the Principality, but if the 9-capped Frenchman thought he would leave his injury woes behind him, he was badly mistaken. 2 separate setbacks saw him miss 2 months of the 2016-17 season before his move to Manchester, where another cruciate ligament injury and a litany of others have seen him miss 78 games in 2 seasons. With just 22 appearances in that time, each appearance has cost the Sky Blues £2.4 million. Midfielder Fred. An all-action midfield presence with 32 Champions League games under his belt and stolen from under the nose of Man City, Man United fans were rightly delighted when Fred joined for £53 million in June 2018 on a 5-year deal. But 13 months on, it's difficult to see what the 11-cap Brazilian brought to the table during his 25 appearances in 18-19. Never trusted to start more than 2 games in a row and only given 1,000 Premier League minutes, Fred struggled to pick up the rhythm of the division and finished with 1 goal and an assist to his name. And though his 3.9 tackles and interceptions per 90 might sound impressive, he was dribbled past 1.6 times a game, second only to Herrera in United's squad. Their 5th most expensive player of all time, it'll take a massive improvement from Fred to avoid him being labelled, alongside Kleberson and Rodrigo Possebon, as yet another failed Brazilian experiment at Old Trafford. Midfielder Coutinho. Philippe Coutinho may have cost an initial £107 million, but that will rise a further £35 million, making him the 3rd most expensive player of all time. And it's fair to say that so far it hasn't worked out. Brought in by Barcelona to be the long-term replacement for Andres Iniesta, despite rarely playing in a midfield 3, Coutinho is seemingly a case of right player, wrong manager, wrong time. With Ousmane Dembele signed to play on the left, Suarez continuing to defy his age centrally, and Messi continuing to defy what we previously thought possible wherever he plays, opportunities have been few and far between for the 27-year-old, with Valverde only starting him 22 times in La Liga in 18-19. In those limited appearances, he's averaged a goal contribution every 175 minutes, causing his expected goals and assists per 90 to drop from 0.7 in his final season at Anfield to 0.5 last campaign. The Blaugrana must expect a drastic improvement next season. Midfielder Thomas Lemar. Throughout the summer of 2017, coming off the back of a season in which he had contributed 24 League and Champions League goals, Thomas Lemar was heavily linked with a £90 million move to Arsenal. But as usual, the Gunners delayed and eventually ran out of time to complete the deal, meaning Alexis Sanchez was forced to stay an extra 6 months at the Emirates, and the club missed out on a sizable fee for the Chilean. A year later, with his form having drastically dropped off at Monaco with an average of a goal contribution every 255 minutes, he joined Atletico Madrid for £63 million. Playing in Diego Simeone's more defensively minded system, Lemar contributed just 7 goals in 38 League and Champions League appearances, dropping his expected goals and assists per 90 from 0.4 to 0.3. Ranked 3rd for dribbles and 3rd for key passes, and upping his defensive contribution to 3 tackles and interceptions per 90, Lemar's signing wasn't a catastrophe. But as it stands, he certainly hasn't paid back his fee, the 2nd biggest in Atleti history at the time of recording. Forward Neymar. When available, Neymar has been phenomenal for PSG. In 50 appearances for the club, he has racked up 45 goals and 25 assists, helping the club to a league title and a domestic treble. But injuries and controversies have plagued him in his time in Paris. Having only sat out 14 games across his final 2 years at Barcelona through injury, he has already missed 47 in his short time at the Parc des Princes. With the transfer fueled by a desire to fulfill a childhood dream of being crowned the best player in the world, having picked up 2 third-place finishes before his departure, his first full season saw him finish 12th in the Ballon d'Or. Having played just 1 Champions League knockout tie for the Parisians so far, they were no doubt furious when Neymar picked up a 3-game European ban for insulting match officials on social media. Already banned for 3 domestic games after punching an opposition fan after their Coupe de France final defeat, it feels like Neymar owes PSG some massive performances. But how does he respond? By angling for a return to Barcelona. We don't care how good he's been when he's played, or what a success he's been commercially for the club, this was not €222 million well spent. Forward, Joao Felix. It's fair to say that it's not been Atletico Madrid's summer so far. Not only have they lost two of their most talented youngsters in the form of Rodri and Luca Hernandez for a combined £135 million, but three club stalwarts in Godin, Juanfran and Philippe Luis and talisman Antoine Griezmann look set to follow them. In their stead, they've brought in 30-year-old centre-back Philippe and 29-year-old central midfielder Hector Herrera from Porto, the promising Batam-proven Marcos Llorente and most dramatically of all, Portuguese teenage sensation Joao Felix. Let's get it right. The 19-year-old was exceptional in the back half of the 18-19 campaign, finishing up with 18 goals and 8 assists in 32 Liga NOS and Europa League games. But the youngster only played one full 90 before Christmas and was playing for a supercharged side that scored 65 goals in their final 16 league outings. It'll be fascinating to see what he can do when he is playing in a superior division for a side which averaged the 11th most shots and with the pressure of replacing a player who contributed 44% of their league goals last season. With Benfica collecting the 5th biggest fee in history and using 18 million of it to bring in Real Madrid's Raul de Thomas, they've definitely got the better end of the deal. Forward, Christian Pulisic. Replacing Eden Hazard was always going to be nigh on impossible for one player. After all, the 28-year-old Belgian took his game to new levels last season, becoming just the 4th player in Premier League history to score 15 and assist 15 in a single season. Luckily, a month before Chelsea's 2-window ban was first announced, the Blues managed to secure the services of an emerging talent who might be able to shoulder some of that burden, 20-year-old Christian Pulisic. The 30-capped American broke onto the scene at Borussia Dortmund under Thomas Tuchel during the 2015-16 season and established himself over the following two, racking up 7 goals and 11 assists in over 3,800 minutes. But in 2018-19, the emergence of Jadon Sancho and Jakob Brun-Larsen, return to fitness of Marco Reus and the continued good form of Mario Götze limited Pulisic to under 1,000 minutes. For that level of impact, Dortmund seem to have done very well to make £58 million out of him and reinvest that in Torgan Hazard and Julian Brandt in the process. So that was our overpriced 11. What did you make of it? Was there anyone we missed out? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you later.